All right. What is going on, everybody? Brian Zimmerman here, executive editor of Jazz Is Magazine and host of Jazz Is Live. Now, let me just cut straight to the chase about today's episode. It is a very special episode of Jazz Is Live. It is Miles Monday, of course, but it isn't just any Miles Monday. Okay, today, September 28th, happens to be the anniversary of Miles Davis's passing, okay? The day that he left this dimension for another one. And in speaking with my co-host, Vince Wilburn Jr., who you all know, nephew of Miles Davis and awesome drummer in his own right, we, of course, wanted to honor Miles Davis, but we didn't want to do it in any way that was just sitting around telling remember when stories about the life he lived and the music he left behind. No, we really wanted to see how his legacy lives on and how his music continues into this generation. And, you know, specifically how he has influenced the trumpet players of today. And so to do that, we open the doors of this episode to some of the best trumpet players in the world. So some names that you saw in the Facebook post: Jeremy Pelt, Sean Jones, Etienne Charles, all will be coming through today to kind of pay their respects to Miles and discuss how he influenced them. Now, today's episode is going to be a little different. We decided to, again, in the spirit of Miles Davis, who was all-inclusive, embracing, big family, we wanted to kind of make this a stop by and hang, a real jam session, if you will. So Vince and I will be the rhythm section, and people are going to be coming through on Facebook, calling us up, stopping by the live stream, popping up on video, again, to pay their respects, to share some thoughts on Miles. And we invite you out there watching to do the same. If you have a question for Vince, if you have a question for me about the life of Miles Davis, now is the time to ask it in the Facebook comment section. We'll pull that comment up on screen. Vince and I will do our best to answer it. Or if you have a memory of Miles, feel free to post it again in the comment section. We'll read it on air. All right. Before we get into today's episode today, though, today is actually a great day to spin some Miles Davis records. And I mean records, you know, physical vinyl, maybe put it on a turntable if you have it, drop the needle. There's nothing like listening to jazz on vinyl. And if you agree, you may want to check out our fall 2020 issue. Okay, check this out. This is the Art of the Album issue. It is all about albums, records, listening to albums, collecting albums, producing albums, album cover art. Everybody has that favorite album cover image. Miles Davis had some iconic ones, that's for sure. Now, this issue has already been mailed to subscribers. So you should have it in your mailboxes, or better yet, on your coffee table. But we've digitized all this content, all this great content. We've converted into HTML articles. They're on our website for you to read. You will need a digital subscription to read them. And right now we're offering a special subscription rate for just 99 cents per month for 3 months. You can unlock unlimited digital access to the site. So you can read all of the articles that are featured in this print issue, plus all of our previous print issues. Plus, we will enroll you to receive a complimentary print issue come winter when we mail our next issue, the December 2020 winter issue, which is all about jazz on film, jazz in the movies. It's a really cool issue. We're putting it together now. I'm really proud of it. And yeah, like I said, you subscribe now, you get all of the content from this issue online, and we'll enroll you to receive a complimentary print issue come December. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome my co-host for the day, my fellow rhythm section mate, nephew of Miles Davis, and an awesome drummer, an awesome guy, Vince Wilburn Jr.
What's up, B?
Vince, looking good, man. Sounded good. You got a nice new microphone.
Yeah,
I dig it.
EV.
Very nice, man. Well, hey, thank you. Yeah, thank you for helping me to put this episode together. Again, it's kind of a Mr. Rogers neighborhood type deal. We're just going to leave the door open and people can come in. People can ask questions of us in the Facebook comments section. And the whole point is just remembering Miles on this anniversary of his passing. You shared a kind of a touching photo on your Facebook feed this morning, Vince, which is Miles Davis's gravesite. There it is in Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx. Vince, he's buried not far.
Sorry, but it's actually a crypt. It's not buried there.
Oh, wow.
He's encrypted right behind this stone.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
It's in Woodlawn Cemetery, and it's on a corner called the Jazz Corner.
Right. A
and it
lot of
has
major figures buried there. He's close to Duke Ellington, also buried in Woodlawn, right?
Max Roach, Jackie McLean,
Yep.
this is Lionel Hampton, and the
Yeah,
list
amazing.
goes on and on.
I used to
Right on
live in
that
the
corner.
Bronx. Yep. And I would drive by it often, pay my respects. I'm curious. It was September 28th, 1991 that Miles passed. Yes.
Yes.
He passed away in California.
Yeah, St. John's Hospital, Santa Monica, California.
Right. And a few days later, on October 5th, they had a big funeral. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Hundreds
it was
and
all
hundreds of people.
It was all foggy. It was all
I can
like
imagine,
a blur.
man. I can imagine.
This is horrible, man. I couldn't sit through the service. I had to leave.
Oh, really? I mean, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, hundreds of people there, people lined up in the rain in New York. They had it at a church on Lexington Avenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like I said, countless people turned out to pay their respects. Some of the cats that are going to be on this show you've played with before, we hope, like I say, if they turned out, some of the best trumpet players of today.
Yeah,
cats like.
Go ahead.
Like Jeremy Pelt, some of the
hit the cast, B. Hit the cast.
Etienne Charles, who of course is an amazing trumpet player out of Trinidad, I believe, and is now teaching up in Michigan. He blends so many styles. Like Miles, you cannot put your finger just on what genre of jazz this cat is playing, because he grew up in Trinidad playing a little of this, a little of that, got really into the New Orleans scene. And the guy can really play it all. Very talented trumpet player. So he may be stopping by, Jeremy Pelt, who in research, I mean, I love Jeremy Pelt, but in researching Jeremy Pelt, he's got an affinity for fine arts, and his last album was like interpretations of famous sculptures in jazz form. And so I feel like Miles and Jeremy would have gone on about their love of art.
Bad cat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who else you got? B? Tell him.
Keyon Harrold. I mean, the invitations are out. Like I said, Keyon Harrold, who, as we know, Keyon Harrold was on this show. He was on this podcast. And he, of course, played the music in a Don Cheadle biopic, Miles Ahead. He was playing the horn.
You don't hear everything, not to put you off, B, but everything that isn't Miles is Keyon. On the movie.
That's
from
right.
Ferguson, Missouri, by the way.
That's right. And like I said, we invite you out there watching in Cyberland, if you have any questions or want to share a memory of Miles, to go ahead and do so. I see Gary, Godspeed Miles, some love in the trumpet. That's absolutely right. I am a trumpet player as well, and Miles was an indelible influence on me. I was going to ask whoever stopped by to ask a trumpet player, kind of when you first heard Miles Davis is like asking when you first took a breath. It's like impossible to say. I mean, like when you grow up playing jazz trumpet, Miles seems to be always there. So one of the things I get asked a lot instead is like, when did I first start engaging with Miles Davis on a real educational level? Like, when did I try to learn from the master? And I remember very succinctly, very specifically, I was in 7th grade. There it is, Miles the master, dropping some knowledge.
That was the Aura. That was during Aura in Copenhagen.
Okay.
He won a Grammy for it. Just gives me, like telling me what to play, and break up the beat. Yeah, it's a classic.
So that's a young Vince Wilmer Jr.
Young man, 82 maybe. Yeah.
Oh, right on, man. Right on.
I was about 6, but I look older.
No, you look good, man. You look good. Yeah, I remember I was in 7th grade. Speaking of young, and I was in jazz band. I was just starting to, get my chops together. I wanted to learn about this art form that was improvising. And this elder cat, who probably was all of 18, 19 years old, pulled me aside and says, first thing you need to do, you need to sit down with Miles Davis, his solo on Freddie Freeloader, and transcribe it note for note. That's the foundation. And so that's what I did. Wow. And it was just kind of, it demystified the whole process for me, because, you realize that these guys you only have 12 notes to work with, so, and they're working with the 12 notes, but it mystified it too, because how can you be so cool? The thing about that solo, and I'm sure a lot of trumpet players will agree, so simple, right? So soft spoken, but the coolest thing on the planet. Said a lot with so few words, especially when you contrast him to someone like Coltrane, who's just sheets of sound right beforehand. So I'm curious, and if there are any jazz trumpet players, or let's face it, jazz musicians, or let's face it again, musicians period out there, who can share a memory of the first time they really learned something from Miles, I would love to hear that. How about you, Vince? I know Miles was not really the type to sit down and give lessons. His leadership was more like, I'll show you, and by doing it on the bandstand.
Yeah, B. I mean, he hired you for what you could have, bring to the band.
Right.
He had a knack for picking out the best of musicians, and then them expressing themselves, and right. Uncle Miles would kind of be the like Ron Carter referred to him as the head chemist.
Okay.
And everybody's just putting their ingredients in, like
right.
like a bouillabaisse or bitches brew or a gumbo, or and then he turns up the heat, turns down the heat, puts the spices in, or puts the mixes the molecules. And the fun thing about it, he knew it was his insight, and he knew how to change the course. He could change the course of a concert in one song. He just had a knack for feeling the audience. Right. Or in the studio, just he always said, and I've repeated this before, there's a melody in a song inside of a song. So right. A lot of time when we would play the playbacks of recordings, he would hear like a line or something somebody played, or a bass line, and he'd make a song out of that. It's pretty uncanny.
Absolutely. Yeah. Drummers talk a lot about rhythms inside of rhythms, and songs inside of songs. That was Miles' deal. And the way he engaged with an audience. Yeah. It's so important. We had someone on the show, and we've done so many of these now, I'm forgetting, who I think he was talking about how Cannonball always used to tell people, I give people a third of what I want. They bring a third of what they want. And then a third is just created right there, magic on the bandstand. I feel like you got a lot of that with Miles too.
Well, it's the best way to approach music. If you can rehearse too much, and you can be over rehearsed, or you can record like too many takes, and then the spontaneity is gone, or it's like, musicians tend to get tired. As B, I mean, you take 7 takes of one track, I would be like, okay, let's go to the next song.
Right.
If it's not working when we're recording, the
right.
track. So,
yeah,
but he loved to get 1 or 2 takes, and he was on to the next one. He said, I got it. Okay, let's go to the next, which is great. Right. And then now you can't do this, but the tape just ran. You know what I mean? We never stopped tape. Never.
Oh, right. Because you never know when you're going to capture that magic. They teach you that in journalism school too. Do not turn off the recorder till you're back in your car, because the magic happens when you're leaving and saying goodbye, and someone comes, with a random story. It's the same in music, same in jazz.
Yeah, nowadays artists can't do that. They have to rehearse and get in the studio, cut the song,
right?
Cut the record. It's limited time in the studio. But Miles, you're there 2, 3 days, 4 days.
He had
and that's something about 20 songs.
Yeah,
20, 25 songs.
He seemed like such a leader in the recording studio. I have some questions about that, but it looks like we've received our first knock on the door, and that would be from Jeremy Pelt.
JP.
Masked up and everything. Jeremy, welcome to the program, man. Thank you for joining us.
JP, you're in the studio, right, JP?
I am in the studio. I'm mixing my record right now.
Oh, beautiful, man. Well, Jeremy, hey, thank you so much for joining us. Like I say, we're live now, man, and we appreciate it. The policy here is open door, so you can come and chill as long as you want. But if you got to get back to mixing, we totally understand. But thank you for coming on, celebrating the life of Miles Davis, man.
Of course.
We were just talking about your latest album, the one that was interpretations of the Rodin sculptures.
Oh, great.
Because, Miles Davis also famously appreciative of art, and was a practitioner later in life. So one of the questions I had before we get into, that kind of parallel, I always want to ask, trumpet players, when did you first start engaging with Miles kind of like on an educational level, really start listening, taking him as like a mentor, and what could you hear from his music?
Well, I mean, first thing I'll say is that this day is special. It's weird to say because obviously, I mean, he died on this day in 91, right?
Yeah.
But it's also special to me because this is apropos to your question, because this was the day that I entered 10th grade, I believe. And this was, up until that point, I had been a classical student. And so I was going in my high school and I was like, do you guys have an orchestra? And they were like, no, but we had a pretty good jazz band and here's our instructor. And I get in there and the first thing we play is So What? I've never heard of it. It's never heard of me. I play the music and then the teacher starts pointing at different students and they start playing. And I'm like, well, what are they playing? What are they playing?
Right.
He's improvising. Oh. And so after school, I went straight to the store, to the record store. Remember those? And and found So What? But it wasn't on Kind of Blue. I just picked up the first thing I could find So What on. And it happened to be Miles Davis live at Carnegie Hall in 1961. Or 1960 rather. And as soon as I got that answers your question right there. That's when everything you fell into place. And that's also when I decided I wanted to play the music.
Oh, interesting. That was a little hot. That was up tempo, right?
That day.
Wow. That is wild, man. That is why, and as you were kind of expanding your jazz palette, I'm sure you were listening to other cats. Clifford invariably enters the mix. Freddie Hubb.
They didn't even come later.
Really?
I mean, because Miles was like the first one.
Wow.
So I mean, I was heavy, into Miles.
Heavy into Miles. You dug deep. And so, what was it about his sound, and about his style on the trumpet that spoke to you, even after other trumpet players, entered the picture? What was it about Miles that you connected with?
Truth be told, it was the feeling of the whole band. I mean, that band on that record was Wynton Kelly and Paul Chambers and Hank Mobley and Jimmy Cobb, and it was just such an electric feeling when they played that So What? I was just like, it was like immediately getting, you get bit by a mosquito and you immediately feel the bump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Except this is a good bump. You get bit and you're just like, wow, and you're just affected that immediately.
Wow, beautiful, man. And I will say, because I'm a trumpet player too, and a total hack amateur trumpet player. But in terms of tone, and especially coming from a classical background, which Miles did too, right, Vince?
Juilliard.
Yeah, Juilliard, trained classical. One of the purest sounds, most beautiful tones, on the trumpet, period. I love Kenny Dorham. I love KD as much as the next guy, some of these guys. But it's a very jazzy sound. It could be a little whispery. It could be a Lee Morgan, very bright. A pure tone on Miles Davis that really made it all the more human in a lot of ways.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, his sound was something that is always, in the back of my mind, and his sound also influenced a number of my, favorite. Other favorite trumpet players, namely Donald Byrd.
Yes.
I mean, they had the same type of thing, of just the tone, and so that is something that was very profound on me. The effect of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question, JP. It takes a trumpeter, for both of you guys, years to find your sound, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, man, we've toured together with the Miles Electric Band, but one of many things I love about you, I could say why you're here, is you play JP, but for the like in love of Miles, we all hold that music sacred to us. I wish we could have some put up some of the concerts with us playing together.
Great.
But you know, you have your sound, but you're influenced by Miles and great trumpeters. But how do you when you play that music, you know, how do you you know, what are you thinking about? How do you encompass that you know?
I'm thinking about you guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean it's a trip to be on the stage with you guys that were on stage with Miles, right?
Yeah, dude.
And you know, one of the things I remember when I was getting ready to do the couple dates that I did, I was talking to Antoine Roney, you know, because I just didn't know what. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, that was up until like 10 years ago, the one era of Miles that I didn't check out a whole lot of, 80s. I just didn't. I stopped like in the 70s. So it wasn't until, and you'll see, I guess Lenny White's going to be on here later, right? It wasn't until Lenny called me to do a gig where he's like, yeah, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And it was, and Lenny said, we're going to do some of the stuff from We Want Miles, right? And I was like, okay. And so I went and checked out My Man's Gone Now. I was just blown away. And so that's what got me started to check it out. So, you know, that was something I just wanted to really make sure that I was doing it justice, you know, because basically Antoine was just like, man, it's your band.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Don't put that pressure on me, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm
doing.
So I had to, you know.
No, but man, you came in, you walked in and you know, smoking, you know, and you know, the beauty of it is we hold the musicians that actually play with Miles on those records at high esteem, in high esteem. But we're doing like Jack Johnson, we're doing Time After Time, then we go to In a Silent Way, and I mean we're moving all around. But but the beauty of it is it's our interpretation, and that's what I love about it, you know.
Absolutely.
And we have a new record coming out, Brian, and my man's on there, JP. It's killing, you know.
Beautiful, man. Is that the way the band works? If somebody's playing, you know, like Jeremy's a guest, and it's you kind of hand the it's like, here, man, this is we're following you. You're in the spotlight.
When I call JP, I trust. I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's like calling Michael Jordan. You know, you gotta call cats that will. You know, you don't have to worry about it. You know, JP's got it because JP would do his homework before he comes to the bandstand. You know, so I'm good. You know, you're good. I'm good. You know, and when we do the sound checks, Brian, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a good night. You know, it's gonna be a good night.
Man.
You know,
I'm looking forward to doing more as soon as this.
Likewise, man.
All the BS goes away. But
exactly.
Who's cutting on your new record, JB? Who's on your new record?
It's the same band that you were talking about from Jeremy Pelt, the artist. So it's the same cats. Chain Lou on vibraphone, Vicente Archer on bass, Alan Mednard on drums, Victor Gould on piano, Ismail Wignall on percussion, and I got Brandy Younger playing harp on one track too.
Oh, yeah, she's bad. She's bad.
You got to come back on the show.
Yeah.
I'm here at Rudy Van Gelder. I'm at Rudy Van Gelder's mixing right now. So
for our listeners, say it one more time for our listeners. You're wearing out.
We recorded and mixed the record at Rudy Van Gelder's studio. So you know,
the legendary Rudy Van Gelder's studio.
Yeah,
you're there right now. Yeah. We got to have you come back and debut your record, man, when y'all finish.
I definitely will. I'd love that, man. But I got to get back to it. But thank you guys for having me on here.
Our pleasure, man. Jeremy, thank you so much for stopping by, man. Really appreciate it.
JP.
Long
Thanks,
live
man.
Miles.
Long live Miles. That's right.
Brother.
Bye.
Peace.
Yeah, I dug that last album that he did. Jeremy Pelt, the artist. Again, he was doing interpretations of Rodin sculptures as jazz pieces. And he goes way back with his interest in fine arts. He's an avid museum goer, Jeremy Pelt, just an all around awesome musician and great guy.
He might burn a little bit too in the kitchen, B.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Another thing he has in common. Another thing he has in common with Miles, who was he knew his way around the kitchen too.
Oh, definitely, man. He had the little black book, and we're still looking for this black book, like a little phone book with all these great recipes, you know. Aaron and I can't find it. But
I've seen one floating around the internet of like Miles Davis' famous chili or something like that. But that reminds me, we're on the topic of cooking. We should let people know that coming up a little later in the month, in October, we're going to be talking with, this is wild, and you found these guys, Vince, the Potash twins. The Potash twins are food celebrities, right? They've been on Bravo. They've been on Food Network. They've cooked with Andrew Zimmern, who also happen to be jazz musicians. They are, and they play, they gig, they record. They've chilled with Wynton. And on one of their shows, they pair musicians with chefs to see how, the art forms are similar. They're two young players out of, I think, Minnesota. They're going to be on the show. Funny. Yeah. Funny. Hysterical. So they're going to be on the show to talk about cooking, to talk about Miles, walking us through a recipe. I think Miles would be proud, man.
Yeah, they answer each other. You know what I mean?
And it's that twin mind. Yeah.
Let's take some questions, man. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, we just got people saying hello, Let
me say this because the trumpeters that we hey Joyce.
Hey Gary.
The trumpeters are going to come on, but they're like, Keyon is in transit. JP's in the studio. Sean, everybody. Yep. CM, what's up? CM Tally, what's up, CM? Any questions for anybody?
I always had a question because we get into this a lot. Miles, again, he'd get in the studio. He'd like to let the tape roll. He definitely had his way putting a band together and recording. And a lot of the musicians, especially the young musicians we get on this show, say they were so influenced by Miles to really take control of their music, and it influenced a lot of them to become record label owners. They started their own record labels. Was that something Miles ever entertained? Was that ever something he wanted to do?
He never mentioned being a label owner. Never, But I know when he left Sony or Columbia Records at the time for Warner Brothers, he wanted to change up the game, But
we'll put a pin in that. We'll put a pin in that, Vince, because somebody just knocked on the door, and that would be the one, the only Sean Jones.
What's up, Sean?
Hey, Sean.
What's up, brother?
How you feel?
What's happening?
Everything is great. I'm here in the recording studio. We're about to do a live stream with the Venezuelan Jazz Collective, led by my good friend Vilma. So we're doing it up.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful, man. Well, hey, we want to appreciate you coming onto the stream. I've been letting people know, it's come and go as you please. So we're glad to have you here hanging out. But if you got to bounce, don't hesitate to do your thing. But thank you for stopping by to share some love for Miles Davis, man.
Thank you, man. Of course. I wouldn't be playing the trumpet if it wasn't for Miles Davis.
So go ahead.
First trumpet I ever heard, man. My teacher in the sixth grade, her name is Jessica Turner. She played clarinet, and she loved Marcus Miller. Miller, right? So she gave me a couple Miles Davis records, and the first one that she gave me was Tutu, and she gave me Kind of Blue and Amandla. And Amandla blew me away, man. Katembe, the first track. I mean, I literally played that over and over again as an 11-year-old, thinking, what is this, And
wait a minute, 11? Sean, you 11?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So, and I played Katembe over and over.
Wore it out.
Yeah. But partially because I grew up in a Pentecostal church environment. And so there was a lot of complex music going on anyway. But, Katembe had everything in it that I loved about music. Yeah, the voices, you have multiple rhythms going on, complex harmony. It was like, it had the blues in it. I mean, it's literally not missing anything in that one track, man.
That's awesome, man. It's so cool to hear you say that because a lot of trumpet players find a way into Miles, through the 50, 60 stuff for second grade quintet. But I love Tutu. I love Amandla just as much, man.
Oh, man. That music, man. I mean, when you think about Miles Davis, I tell all my students, I said, Miles is the perfect example of reinvention, but staying true to who you are. He constantly went with what was going on, without fundamentally changing its sound. You could take the sound of Miles Davis in the 80s, and it's the
Right.
same sound of Miles Davis in the 50s. Literally the same sound, but implanted in a completely different style,
Right.
different idiosyncrasies inside of the genre. And
Right.
it's just amazing, man.
Yeah. And Sean, man, you had the distinction, because we've had some other guests on the show. And by the way, we have Lenny backstage working on his camera. So Vince, if you could maybe let Lenny know he's connected, but we don't have his camera. Lenny White is backstage.
Randy Hall, and we got Lenny White. And hey, Sean.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, man, we hit the stage too, brother.
Yes, we have.
So what? I mean, what? You have your sound, but what? When you first hit with us, what were you vibing? What were you, what were you thinking about in terms of getting the music, getting the music before we did rehearsal, the sound checks?
Well, the first
what was your mindset?
Well, the mindset for me was to not get in the way, but to get in the way in such a way that Miles would do. Like, one of the things I heard a great trumpeter, Snooky Young, say, who was one of the greatest, if not the greatest lead trumpet player to ever live. He said,
and a good friend of Uncle Miles.
Yeah,
great friend too.
Yeah, he said Miles, greatest lead trumpet player ever. And I didn't know
wow.
what he was saying at the time. I'm like, what? Miles Davis didn't play lead. And he said, listen to how he leads the direction of the music. It's not just about playing on top of the band. It's about leading the direction of the music and the contour. And so one of the two things that I thought about when playing with the electric band, Vince, is one, all of y'all are alums. So I have to come in with a certain level of reverence to the fact that y'all been there and you know what that sound is. But at the same time, you still have to, be in the leadership role. So it's like a certain level of humility and responsibility at the same time that I had to come into the band with.
That's amazing, man.
And
not to mention, handled it extremely well. Not to mention, you were playing with Herbie on the Tribute to Miles tour in 2011. I mean, you were playing with Herbie, with Marcus, with Wayne. That's an amazing position to be in, because obviously you want to pay homage to Miles, but you still got to be Sean. Was that the fine line you had to walk?
Well, it was, but at the same time, it was like I knew that it would be a death sentence for me if I came in trying to sound like Miles.
Right.
There's only one. So I thought to myself, well, just be Sean. You're on the gig. You got hired for a reason, and it must be because, be yourself. They've heard Miles up close and personal, so to kind of come in and reflect that would have been a mistake. And again, it's the same thing. These are alums of Miles's band, and so you have to come in with a certain level of reverence,
right?
And you have to do your job. I mean, at the end of the day, you do your job. You hit that stage. There's no excuses. There's no discussion. It's the music, and so the music led me each time. And to say that I'm grateful for those opportunities is an understatement. And Vince, thank you for providing the opportunity for all of us, man, to keep this beautiful spirit alive and the music alive. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I love you, brother. You know that.
Oh, man. Love you too. Mutual.
Yeah,
I can't back out here and perform with you again.
Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do it soon.
Yes, sir.
And Sean, man,
and
like I say, I got tons of questions for Sean, man. But like I say, feel free, Sean. If you got to bounce, you got to bounce. But I'm so curious as to, because you started with Amanda, as you work your way back, you're developing your own chops as an improviser, as a trumpet player. As you were getting into some of the earlier stuff, or really all of Miles Davis stuff, what was inspiring you? What was jumping out at you about some of the stuff that Miles was doing, that made him so original?
Well, one was he hired people to be themselves. So when you hear his bands, each band sounds different, and you can't say the same for a lot of band leaders. A lot of people, right. A lot of band leaders hire cats and they say, "No, this is what I want you to sound like."
Yeah.
Up sounding the same for the duration of their careers. But Miles hired cats to contribute music, to contribute their sound. it seemed like it was a collaboration without being there. I did hear the stories of cats, and Miles really respected the musicians that he hired and respected them to be themselves. The other thing again is it's fascinating to me that someone can take their sound and literally put it inside of everything and work.
Right.
It's almost like Miles was like salt or pepper, man. Like salt, pepper is everything.
Yeah.
And it's like how many spices, how many flavorings can you use literally in everything?
Yeah.
And that's how deep it is for Miles Davis.
Ron Carter referred to him as the head chemist, and everybody just had like these different ingredients and formulas, and we all put this,
Yeah.
we used. Head chemist was directing everything that we putting into this vat, So,
yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And he always knew he knew he could get what he wanted out of each musician,
Right.
And sometimes I think he liked to be pushed, especially like when I listened to the second quintet with Tony and those guys,
Mhm.
And Tony was like always just like relentless, you know what I mean? One time I heard Tony asked Miles, "How come you don't practice?" And Miles was like, "What?" It's like, Tony was what, 17, 18, just killing the bandstand, just like slaying them,
Yeah.
That's amazing to me.
You know what? Another thing about Miles, and this is, I never got a chance to meet Miles or anything, but I would have to venture and guess that Miles had probably the greatest ear in music of almost all time. Be able to hear all of that, to know exactly when. I mean, it's like perfect. It's
Yeah.
You know what was amazing? I was sharing with Brian and Jeremy Pelt. When he would stop a song during the concert and go on to the next song, he could kind of engage the energy of the audience. See, a lot of people think he was being, he was turning his back to the audience because he was like, like he wasn't interested in the audience. But he liked the interaction with people on stage, like a conductor in an orchestra.
I was just about to say, the irony that conductors, these major orchestral conductors, their back is to the audience literally the entire time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They get scrutinized.
Yeah.
For
literally being a director of the ensemble,
And he had the uncanny way of knowing when to get on to the next song or what to,
Yeah.
He would give us little things on stage.
Hey, we got another. Hey, Keyon
What's
has
going
joined
on?
the party.
What's up, B?
What's up, everybody? What's up, Sean? What's up, V? How you doing?
What's up,
What's up,
man?
Brian? Everything is
Hey,
cool.
Keyon, welcome back, man.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah.
Welcome
I got
to
a
show.
quick one for you.
Yeah.
Hold
bring
on,
it,
B.
Vince.
I know you got a ton of them for him.
No. Bring it.
Sean,
Bring
you
it,
jump
Vince.
into it. Hey, Key.
Yo.
We've played together in the electric band too. Key,
Mm-hmm.
when you did the Miles Ahead movie and soundtrack, what was that like? Oh, and Bernard Fowler told me to tell you hello.
I'll give him my best.
Bernard is out there listening. But
The
what
genius,
was that
Bernard.
like? Yeah, Bernard's the man.
Yes, indeed,
Queensbridge.
man. Yes, sir. I'm literally not too far from there right now. I'm coming in from Long Island, so sorry I'm on the train or just gotten off the train.
No worries,
But anyway, working on the Miles Ahead film was an amazing thing, man. Got a chance to work with some incredible people, from Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorter in the studio, and Robert Glasper obviously did an amazing score, and Don Cheadle. It was a beautiful thing. I felt like, I don't know, it's an amazing to basically to walk on the shoulders of Miles Davis, the legend, the incredible artist who we all aspire to be like, It's an amazing time, amazing experience. A learning lesson on so many levels.
Absolutely,
and you from
man.
Ferguson, which is St. Louis.
Yes, sir.
Miles,
Yes,
East
sir.
St. Louis. Talk about that, man, please.
Oh, it was an amazing
How did you start? How did you start? How did you
connection.
get in the game? Key? How did you start?
I started playing. I started off. My grandfather had a drum and bugle corps. He was a police officer. Started a drum and bugle corps, but made all of his grandkids learn how to play the horn. I wanted to play drums, but that didn't work out. You know, I started getting good on the horn, and my brother Emmanuel, who works with Gregory Porter now, he didn't get good on the horn, and he continued on the drums. So, you know, so that's how I started, and you know, just the connection between, you know, Miles Davis and just, you know, my distant family, the Randalls. Eddie Randall had a band called the Blue Devils, which was one of Miles's first bands. So, you know, it's an amazing connection. So if it gets too loud, it's because I'm at a train station. So.
It's all good, Keyon. I'll give you the same spiel. I mean, it's just kind of an open door policy here. It's a real jam. So we, you know, obviously love having you here to hang, but whenever you got to get going, feel free to be on your way. We're just spreading love for Miles Davis today. Sean, it looks like Sean has got to bounce.
Can't hear you, Sean.
Sean, you heading out? Thank you, Sean. Much appreciated.
Love you, man.
Thank you.
Much love, y'all. I appreciate you.
All right, come back anytime.
Sean,
Yes, sir.
peace and
Take
love,
care,
my
Sean.
bro.
Appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And
Uh-oh.
Etienne Charles has joined the party too.
What's up, y'all?
Hey, what's going on, man?
What's
We
up,
told
brother?
you. We told you. Trumpet Summit people.
Yeah, what's
But
going
now-
on, everybody? It's good to see everyone, man. Keyon,
Right.
Vince,
What's up, y'all?
Brian, what's going on, y'all?
Hey, man. Thank you for joining. So we were just, I mean, we're kicking it off again. This is kind of an open door policy. People come. We're chatting Miles Davis. Lenny White, by the way, is backstage. Lenny, if you can hear me, your camera's not working. As soon as we can get that camera working, we'll bring
He
you
said
on, man.
he wants to come on without a camera. B.
Can
You
we do
bring
that,
him
Jeff?
on.
Yo,
Lenny
what's
White.
going on, Doctor
Hey,
White.
Lenny.
What's up, brothers?
What's
Hey,
up,
man.
Machine Gun? I call Machine Gun Lenny White.
Yeah, the man, the myth, the legend, Lenny White, the great.
Yeah.
Real quick for E and Keyon, you know, when was it the first time? Key, you shared it with our audience, but E, when was the first time you heard Miles coming up?
Oh man. I first heard Miles. I first heard my dad was a DJ. He was a DJ. He still has a record collection, but he had the first record that I was introduced to Miles's music on was a tribute record that was Wallace, Tony Williams, Ron Carter, Herbie Hancock, and Wayne Shorter. And then my uncle pulled out Feed a Kilimanjaro. And he put it on the record player. I don't know, I was like in the 90s sometime. And that's when I got introduced to Miles, which is an interesting period in his career to get introduced to his sound. But the one thing I'll say about Miles is no matter where in his career he was when you first heard his music, it pulled you in, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No matter what era it was of his sound, there was always something in the sound that
Absolutely.
that was like, come, you're gonna listen to this and you're gonna want to know. And so, you know, and it's a constant journey. I mean, I just got Sorcerer on wax.
Yeah, man.
It's a pink LP. So
Yep,
you know,
yep.
I've had the CD for years, and just, you know, so I'm starting to get some more LPs, and you know, it's unbelievable music. Just for me, the thing that always catches me about Miles is his sound.
Yeah.
You know, like you go through his stuff in the 40s or the 50s or the 60s. Each one, like his sound has this way of catching you. 70s, same the 80s, same, like he has this way of catching you with his sound. And I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. So,
Well,
still
you're
chasing,
doing it
huh?
well, man. You're doing. Yeah, we were just talking about this. It's such a human, pure sound, man. And then the
Yeah.
fact that he introduced the harmon mute. I mean, people got to remember. People take it for granted harmon mute on a trumpet now in jazz, but he was really one of the first to popularize it. Etienne, man, you still teaching up in Michigan?
yeah, I'm in Michigan right now. I'm on a quick break from class, and
Okay.
you know, I'm at Michigan State. And but I was the last gig I played before lockdown was in St. Louis.
Ah, okay.
And we drove across. I wanted to try to go find the old house because Harry Edwards had actually told me that when he was growing up in East St. Louis, he would hear Miles practicing on his grandmother's porch.
Wow.
Right on, man.
That's incredible.
So he was talking about how the sound, like he had Miles's sound in his head before Miles was even on a record.
Wow.
The
So
original Miles.
That house has been restored, and it's 1701 Kansas. And it's anybody who's ever in East St. Louis or St. Louis or the area, go by 1701 Kansas, right on the corner, and it's the House of Miles.
Yeah, I'm
have
t-shirts, I'm gonna make a drive.
You could do it. We donated it to the city, and it's curated by my Lauren Parks, and it's a website and everything, man. So next time you're that way.
Yeah, well, I'm a short drive from St. Louis, man. It's not too far from me, so I might, might just go make another pilgrimage, because that's CT territory too. Those are all my guys. CT, Keyon Harrold.
That's
Key,
right,
man. And I've shared stage with Key and Etienne, man. You cats, man. You come with your own fire, man, and I love you, brothers, for it. Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, Miles, his sound was one that was so pure that it's like you want to be a part of it, but if you can actually take in what Miles left us, automatically I feel you're gonna go your own way.
Exactly.
For some reason he had that ability to make I guess Miles Juniors or what would you call it, like the disciples.
I call it Miles Davis University, Key.
University of Miles Davis. Yeah,
that's what it is. Is disciple. It's a discipleship, and we it's everything that one wants to need. It literally is a university.
Damn right, you're right.
Where's Lenny?
Cool.
Where's Lenny?
Lenny, I think he's up there. He might be muted.
Lenny,
you there?
What's the damn plane taking off? What is that, man?
He's in the train.
Hey,
station.
Keyon's at the train station.
Oh, okay. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. I can only stay for a few more minutes. That's why I do.
Hey, Lynn, real quick.
Yes, sir.
This is Bruce. Being at the studio. What time? Just tell me a quick story about that. I love it.
We had to be there. Well, Miles told me to be there at 10 o'clock. And I was there at 9:30. Cleaning lady let me in. And, I'm setting up my stuff. Everybody's coming in and everything. Jack's setting up next to me. I'm setting up, so I'm, messing with my drums. And Miles comes over to talk back. He says, "Hey, Jack." I said, "Yeah, Miles. Tell that young drummer to shut up." So immediately I am a deer in headlights. So, but it was the greatest experience I've ever had.
And you are getting ready to make that iconic record.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
go ahead, Lynn.
We didn't know what it was going to be. I mean, the thing about it, which is so deep, is that we didn't have anything to use as a guide or anything to use as precedent. So we were making it up as we were doing it. And so we didn't know what it was going to be. Somebody put a name on it and said, this is what it was. But, we were making it up as we were doing it.
That's right.
In the rehearsal, you showed up at the house on the brownstone with a snare drum and a cymbal, a ride cymbal.
That's it. That's all he asked me to bring. And all we went over was da-la, 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 ba, ba, ba. And that was it, baby.
You build the plane as you fly it, man. And that's important to think about. That's it, because they call it the F word now, which I know is a word that Lenny doesn't like, fusion. But back then they were making this stuff out of thin air. I mean, it was not a genre. It was not a thing, and that was something it seemed like Miles was always doing. He was always putting himself in a place where has to be inventing something new. Could never stand still.
I'll give you a perspective. I mean, see, here's this real deep thing. I learned how to create music before I learned how to play it. Because because Miles didn't give us any music to play. He just came to me and he said, think of this as a big pot of stew, and I want you to be salt. So what musical knowledge am I going to call upon for me to be salt? What am I going to play, a paradiddle? What am I, you know, I mean, so like you had to, at that moment, try to recreate what it is that he heard in his head, what he wanted you to play. And the other perspective I want to give you is this. I heard guys talk about Miles's sound. Miles's sound was unique, and that's what it was. No matter what kind of music he played, his sound was in that music. So for a young artist to have a sound is very, very important, because by that sound, everybody knows that it is you, no matter what kind of music it is. And just Miles put his sound in whatever kind of music he played. So it became Miles's music. Whatever he played became Miles's music.
In the documentary, Len, you said an amoeba. It was like an amoeba, right?
Yeah, it had a whole bunch of arms and legs and heads and everything. It was just moving around, man. You know.
That's funny. That's funny,
Yeah, man. Hey, Len, I love you, man.
The legend.
What's up, cats? Good to see you guys. Good to talk with you.
A pleasure talking with you, man, as always.
I gotta run, but yeah. Peace out.
Appreciate you, Lenny.
Take care, man.
Yes, sir. All right, now.
Thank you, man. I'll call you tonight.
All right, Lenny.
All right.
Key, come on.
Yeah,
come on.
Well, you know. I mean, Lenny White talking. What I'm gonna say is, Lenny Cat was like 17 years old on
Yes,
Bitches
indeed.
Brew. You know, what am I gonna say?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And
What were you doing at 17?
I still playing funk bands in Chicago.
You know, I was playing in a steel band in Trinidad at 17.
In Trinidad,
Yeah, man.
You
Yeah,
know?
man.
Crazy.
So, Key,
Yeah.
you got love for barbecue, man? Being from St. Louis, or
Keyon.
Key, can you hear me?
Hold up. I got a bad signal right now.
Okay.
Yo, I got a bad signal right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you got a love for barbecue being from St. Louis? Because you freeze it. Well, let me ask you, E.
Yeah. Hold on.
Oh, I love barbecue. We got good barbecue in Trinidad, so you know. Anyway, you got black people, you got good barbecue. you go to Nigeria, you get good barbecue.
We're here now on the road. We always talking about a cool spot to eat, right?
Yep, exactly. Food is the key.
And I got to tell you about Etienne. Etienne has his clothes. He has his wardrobe maxed, clean. He's clean in the airport. He's clean at the sound check, and he's clean on the stage, right? You know,
I can tell by the specs, man. I dig the specs.
Get that from Miles, man.
And killing on the
That's
horn.
exactly right, man.
Yeah, Miles was always fresh, fashion-wise. So you know, so you wear the art, you play the art. You know,
that's right, man.
And
Etienne, I want to ask you, man, because you're at this teaching post at Michigan. And which university is it?
Michigan State University.
Michigan State. That's a good music program up there.
Great program, yeah.
You know, are there things that you have distilled from Miles Davis's playing that you pass on to? We could start with your trumpet players, you know, in specific, but then your musicians as a whole, you know.
Yeah, definitely. We do a few different things with Miles. We studied the different eras of his playing. You know, specifically, like, and you know, a lot of times early on we'll deal with his playing in the 40s and 50s,
right?
And then to get into his playing in the 60s and late 60s. You know, a lot of times I'll talk about ensemble concepts because a lot of the composers that we study were in Miles's bands, like Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter, Marcus Miller, you know, the great Bobby, you know, they all were in Miles's bands, and so a lot of the compositions that we study, like, yeah, this is some music that Miles would play. Think about what Miles would play on this. So, you know, it's from a trumpet perspective, it's a lot about dealing with your sound and dealing with the way you construct a line. from an improvisational perspective, and then from a compositional or improvisational perspective is it's how do you approach a tune based on the concept of, you know, Miles's way of using thirds, or Miles's way of using a chromaticism, or Miles's way of using space, because it's all of those things that he would do to make the music breathe and to make the music move.
Oh, beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to know, you know, because you have really found your way in this kind of trad jazz New Orleans style. I mean, you do everything. Let's face it, you do a little bit of everything. But I love the stuff you do with the like original New Orleans style. A lot of people kind of see like the trad jazz stuff and the Miles Davis stuff kind of on opposite ends, you know, of a spectrum. I'm certain that's not the case. So in what ways do you see that they're all connected, you know?
I think it's all connected. I think, you know, I think all of the traditions of the diaspora really are connected, you know, and so, you know, I see the fluidity of styles as you know, something that Miles did, you know, and like I think the way Miles would move between all of the styles that he ended up playing in his career is something that I try to do as well. You know, I mean, I believe that understanding the foundation of the trumpet is key, and I also understand that digging into as many different styles as possible, where that trumpet is played and where it is not played, is very important. And so I think, you know, the spirit of Miles is really about fluidity in music and about making your statement no matter where you are in the music and finding your place. You know, like he was very big into finding his place in the music, and he had a very special way of doing it. It's funny because he was a boxer, and like the way he plays is like a boxer with a new opponent every time. It's like, you know, you feel them out first before you watch how they punch, before you decide where you're gonna throw. Like, is this person right-handed? Is this person left-handed? Which hand is longer? Which reach is longer? Which foot is stronger? And so it's the same thing he would do in music, and I try to do the same thing. So, like, you know, when I first started digging into, you know, the music of the South, etc., and I take that same approach to all the music that I play. And so you know, that is crucial to playing music.
Absolutely, man. I caught you at the Caramore Jazz Festival a few years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And what a set, man. You lit the place up. Such a diversity of styles and not a booty in the chair, man. I mean, you have people up. If I'm telling people, once this is all behind us and you get a chance to go see Etienne Charles live, do it. It's a great show, man.
Come check us out.
Absolutely.
I got bounce. I got thank you all for calling me.
We got to do some more playing too, E.
Let's do it. We're going to talk. Yeah. You know, thank you all so much. And love to the memory, love to the family. Everybody take care, y'all.
You too, Etienne. Appreciate it, man.
I love you, man. Take care.
Woo.
Damn, that was cool, Vince.
we can go another hour.
Absolutely, man. And maybe we will, you know. Yeah. When was Miles' birthday? In May, right?
May 26, 1926.
That's right.
And some guys that wanted to come on, Randy Hall, Robert Irving, we're going to get them on. They're from Chicago. We started up together in Chicago, and Felton and Darryl and all of us. So we're going to maybe have a Chicago Miles, Love Miles.
Ooh, I love it,
kind
man.
Segment on the come up, because we were
I love it.
Young and trying to get heard, you know.
That's
trying to be heard.
Right,
and Miles something that's influenced to New York. But so we'll get on. We'll have an episode. You know, we'll do a vibe on that soon.
Absolutely. Well, hey, this was an absolute pleasure talking Miles Davis with you, celebrating his life. Thanks for putting this together, Vince. I mean, what a jam. Man, Etienne Charles, Sean Jones, Keyon Harrold, Jeremy Pelt, Lenny White. Oh my God.
Nick Payne is on a flight. He said he's sorry he couldn't make it, but we'll get Nick. I reached out to Terrence Blanchard, TB. You know,
we'll make it happen. Stay tuned, people. Big things happening on Miles Monday. Big things happening.
Spread the word
on Miles Monday.
Spread
the word. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. Sign up for our newsletter. Check out our digital subscription. It's all happening on jazzes.com. And pick up the swag on Miles Davis shop. I'm wearing my Miles Davis rubber band shirt. Vince has got his thing going on.
PRP, Jack Denim, Miles Denim. You know, we rocking
Beautiful, man. Well, Vince, another home run, another successful Miles Monday episode. Thanks for being my co-host, as always, dude.
Hey, B, thank you, man. You know, we don't celebrate his passing, but we just honor the legacy. And when we talked about it, that's what we wanted to do. And thank you and Def Jeff behind the scenes are, and Michael and everybody, man, everybody at Jazz Is for giving us this forum, man. Miles lives forever.
Long live Miles. Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. We will see you next week with another episode of Miles Monday. So long, everyone.
Peace and love, B.
Bye, Vince.